My name's Sam. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the future of everything as a service, XaaS. It might be a confusing term for some of you. Most of you are probably already familiar. I'm also going to be discussing three key trends. One of them is decentralization, and we're all blockchain people here, so that's something that everyone here should be familiar with. We're going to be talking about corporate re-centralization, something maybe you haven't quite considered, and an increased dependency on the cloud. So let's touch on how we got to this everything as a service model. In my first job, we had everything in-house. So we had our fixed servers and server racks in a server room with high air conditioning costs and power costs, until somebody came along and said, we can host some of that infrastructure and data requirements off-site. From there, that led to full-scale hosting. And eventually, we had everything based off-site for all of our systems. The natural progression is obviously into that infrastructure as a service. So we have all of our requirements, our physical requirements off-site, and it's reducing our costs for our IT team. So, building platforms. We're now renting platforms. It's a far reduced cost on all of our management and systems for business operation. And the natural progression, as everybody here is operating in this blockchain space, is that software as a service. So instead of creating our own applications, we're now renting applications. We're utilizing the expertise of other bigger firms to be able to leverage off and focus on what's important to us. And those last three components are what make up everything as a service. So you've got IaaS, PaaS, SaaS makes XaaS. Now, the huge shift in this starts at the bottom line, like most things. There's a big shift in that flexibility model and being targeted on what's most important. So, instead of having large capital expenditure and having to outlay a massive cost at the upfront, you're getting more specific and targeted payments at the things that you really need. It's going from capital expenditure to operating expenditure. You're having less by paying less, but using more. The benefits extend far beyond that. Obviously, you have the accessibility. If you don't have to have your own servers in-house and you don't have an office, you're able to access more. And it's also more accessible for smaller businesses, which has helped growing that entrepreneurship side. The efficiency to implement and any upgrades, you always have the latest technology, so you're able to keep up with the times. And of course, you're freeing up that time for your staff and your entire business to focus on what they're doing. So if you're a manufacturing company, now you're focusing on manufacturing instead of having to worry about your emails going down and having to have an IT staff member manage it. So in the 90s and the 2000s, we had this concept of a tech stack, and people would talk about what components of technology you were combining for the most optimal and efficient operation of your business. These days, in the later 2000s, we're talking about the idea of a cloud stack. Same sort of concept, except it's shifting away just not from technology alone, but also to the cloud. And we have some examples of different companies that are combining, perhaps they have none of their own hardware technology built in, but they're building everything, entire business built entirely off the cloud. This shift is quite evident in a survey that was conducted in 2017, demonstrating the motivators, the key motivators for why people were shifting over to the cloud. And if you look at those top three, not one of them is financial based. Each one of these components, the major driving forces for people shifting to the cloud, are in the way that we work. And that comes back to one of those trends that I mentioned about that dependency on the cloud and a shift towards independence. Case study of an Australian company. Who here surfs? No, I didn't think so. In Australia, it's pretty commonplace. This company is Global Surf Industries, and their goal is to become the biggest small company. And they're achieving that goal. They only have 18 staff members, but their annual revenue is 20 million Australian dollars, which seems reasonably unachievable. But they're able to do it because they have over 10 everything as a service applications at any one time, managing their entire business. And they have no physical infrastructure of their own on site. Their business is entirely focused around producing the best surfboards, and that's why they're able to achieve their goals. They found when then they rolled over their business into the everything as a service dependent model, their efficiency on across the board was 50% improved. Something as simple as end of month reporting, 5 days off from their usual requirements. 5 days a month taken away from their mandatory end of month reporting just by switching over to this model. You can see that there is this corporate company, small enterprise, medium enterprise, even large enterprise dependency on the cloud. And it's not just one example. We're seeing this across the board. In 2016, enterprise-level IT expenditure accounted 11% for cloud-based services. That's expected to triple by 2020. That's supposed to be almost 30% of companies centered around cloud services. So who's supporting all of this? Everything that's built from a platform level up requires infrastructure. And this comes to that other trend that I mentioned, is the dependency on that corporate centralization. As we have an increased dependency on the cloud, we have an increased dependency on these major corporations. 63% of these services, infrastructure services, necessary to be able to operate the platforms and applications on the cloud, are controlled by just 4 companies: Microsoft, Amazon, IBM, and Google. You might have heard of a couple of those. Even one of them alone is 40%, Amazon. It's huge. And if we take it to the next 20-odd%, they're still huge conglomerates. The dependency is only increasing. These companies have got the economies of scale to continue expanding, which goes completely against the third concept and trend of increased decentralization. The lack, the populist intention to remove a dependency on major corporations and governments, and that's why we're all here. We're in blockchain because it's decentralized, but we are increasingly centralized on major corporates. And this is quite simply because of the barriers to entry. You've got your financial barrier to entry. You need huge amounts of land to be able to host your server farms. The power requirements are huge, and of course you've got technologically and skilled requirements. You have to have skilled people in your team to be able to manage all of this. And the market is huge. Combined at the everything as a service level, the market is worth $131 billion US. And that's before we add on all of the extra services in the cloud. More than doubles, $260 billion US. And it's only increasing exponentially. By 2020, that's going to be $411 billion. That's an estimate. So this is a huge pie, and it's being chewed up by a couple of major corporations. And now these trends, you have 2 of them that are already happening and one of them that wants to happen, this decentralized concept. But we're stuck because this is the state of affairs that we're currently in. If you want that independence, you're dependent. That's a paradox. But now Mogu has a solution. Mogu develops smart routers. On their own, it's a router, and it's very intelligent because it acts as a server. Collectively, the servers generate and create a network of distributed servers. And that's a very powerful concept. Imagine if all of those barriers that you have with those major corporations, access to data, storage, the costs that come with it to be able to process, mining, for example. I'm sure some of you are familiar or experts in mining. It's a very expensive process. But if you reduce and remove all of those, unlimited computing power, unlimited storage, what could you create? Consider this: a distributed ledger in a decentralized suite of products and services on a distributed and decentralized server network. It sounds a whole lot better than going to Google. Not that I have anything against Google. We're an existing business. We started in 2015, and we've been steadily increasing. We've beta tested our products already, and our team has been working together for well over 2 years. Two of our founders are in fact brothers, so I guess they've been working together for probably longer than they anticipated. Our company has already got a value proposition and a value added to it. It's been valued as of the beginning of this year at $113 million US, and every router that's sold and distributed increases that value by $315. Where we're heading is quite astronomical. By 2023, we're expecting to have 100 million routers distributed globally. This will disrupt the market. Once we have this in place, we'll be in a position to roll out our everything as a service model, built off that distributed infrastructure. We're also creating a tokenized ecosystem, and that brings us directly into the limelight on that blockchain and crypto tokenized world. So not only are we providing the platform and the basis for other people to build and grow, we're also in it ourselves. Every person who owns a Mogu router is paid for owning it. As we use and process those server services with their household-based router that is also a server on the distributed network, we pay them 50% of the profits earned by the company, paid for by other big corporations. We're flipping it on its head. The capabilities are broad, and this is just a couple of them because we are restricted with time. We could sit down and talk about this for hours, and I encourage all of you to come and speak to us at our booth later on today and have those conversations. We've got a big team, so we're happy to talk about it. But just as a snapshot, you've got your cloud storage, data analytics, infrastructure. There are other smart router providers. We're obviously in that game. Stress testing, huge industry, necessary. And gaming acceleration. We're also part of the World Esports Games, and we're a sponsor of that, so we're very committed to that gaming community. The capabilities continue far beyond there. Mogu is all of these and more. I've heard a lot of people talking about their project as the tree from which tokenized fruit will grow. Well, if you're the tree, or your project is the tree, we're the soil. Plant your trees in our soil. It's the best. Everybody requires infrastructure. Whether you're developing a platform for people to trade more efficiently without commissions, or whether you have your own protocol, whatever it is, if you're selling and distributing products, everything requires infrastructure. And this infrastructure flips the current trends on its head, removes the dependency on big corporations, is perfectly in line with everything that blockchain stands for, and allows you to still progress on that trend of independence and dependency on the cloud. What we require moving forward is capital. Now, we have a token sale that's rolling out next month, and that token sale is intended to provide the capital for the mass production of these routers. 100 million routers need to roll out over the next 5 years. It's a lot of production. But we have the best production partners. TP-Link, Huawei, and Xiaomi, all manufactured by Xiaomi, and they are already signed on as our partners. And once we've got them manufactured, our distribution is top of the line. Unitry alone have already committed to roll out throughout their entire gaming network. Now, you may be familiar, they're the largest Southeast Asian distributors for Steam. We also have the biggest distribution partners in China who have already committed to over 500,000 routers per month. The growth plan starts in China. We already have our routers distributed and operating and working for us in China. They're also the largest internet users in the world, 19% of global internet. From there, we're planning on expanding to 100,000 routers by the end of this year, and then 100 million by the end of 2023. Our team is quite phenomenal. These gentlemen here have achieved over 20 successful business enterprises and ventures. And their mentor is Datuk Kamarudin. 2 airplanes as a co-founder of AirAsia to one of the world's largest airlines. Uber The largest taxi company in the world, no cars. Airbnb, hospitality, no accommodation sites, no houses, no hotels. YouTube, the largest provider of content, no content. And Mogu, the largest server company on the world, without any servers. Thanks for listening to the future of Everything as a Service. Come and have a chat with us, add us on Telegram, and come and see us at our booth for any further questions. Thank you.